we're on to the notes. So we just finished the vocabulary. So this next little bit should be pretty easy, provided that we're paying attention. We might need to reference our notes and such for this. So what we're asked to do for 1 through 4 is it says think of each segment in the diagram as part of a line. So we'll be naming lines or planes that contain point B and appear to fit the description. So we need to name lines in number 1 that contain B. So we're going to call them line B something. Same thing for perpendicular to line FG. So it's going to be line B some other point. Remember, we named lines by 2 points on that line. So line are lines that are parallel to line FG that contain point B. So it's going to be line B something. And then lastly, we're going to need to name a plane that is parallel to plane FGH. So we'll need to say plane, and then we're going to have to say B, and then remember we need to name planes by 3 points on the plane. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys 3 minutes. Actually, let's say I'm going to give you a minute to work through those and figure out what line or line is skewed to the line FH number 1 that contains B, that is perpendicular to line FG containing B, and is parallel to line FG containing B, and then which plane or planes are parallel containing B. Okay, so it's been a minute. So line that is skewed. So in order to be skewed, it has to be non-coplanar, it cannot be parallel, and it cannot intersect it. So FHG is right here. Point B is right here. Now there are only 3 segments that are connected to point B. They're AB, BC, and BG. Now, if I chose line BA or AB, that would be parallel to FG, so I cannot use AB. So the next thing is that it cannot intersect line FG. So that means that it can't be BG because that would intersect that. And so then all that leaves me is BC. Well, BC is not coplanar to FG because this plane in the front would be coplanar with FG, or this plane in the back, this trapezoid, is coplanar with FG. And then we also have a diagonal plane through BC, through FG across. So those would be all coplanar. So BC doesn't fall into that. So we've got check 1, we're non-coplanar. Check 2, we're not parallel. And we are not going to intersect that. So we should have line BC or line CP for number 1. Clear my picture of FG. So the next thing is we need to say perpendicular to FG. So that means that it needs to intersect FG. Well, EF doesn't exist, It's also not a segment on the diagram, so I can't use that. The other one would be VG. Well, there's this little right angle symbol here, so that means that VG is our line that is perpendicular to FG. Now, when we name these, since they intersect at point G, you'll notice that they both contain G in their name. And that's it. That's the only other one that's there. Okay? So there's one more segment that is connected to B that we can use. So line FG is going to be coplanar with line AB. So that means that line AB is parallel to line FG. Or remember, you could say line BA, both of those would work. Okay, last thing, checking parallel planes. So plane FGH. So FGH, that's that plane in the back. I'm going to use that highlighter to highlight it. So notice that the shape of that plane is a trapezoid. There's also a plane over here in the front that contains point B that is also a trapezoid. It's going to be parallel to that plane in the back. So you could call this plane BCD, or any three letters, any two letters other than B that you could name that plane. So you could say BAB, plane BAB, or plane BDA, or anything that contains B, A, B, or C. Okay, so you need 3 points. So that's 1 through 4. Next up, we're going to look at this new picture for 5 through 8. So we need to name a pair of parallel lines. Remember that the symbol for parallel in our picture is going to be some arrows. Now, if I look at that picture, I notice that I have 2 lines that have 1 set of arrows. And I have a second set of lines that have 2 sets of arrows. So I'm going to actually name both of these lines since there are 2 pairs of parallel lines. So I'm going to name both of them. So the first one is this line right here. It contains point W and point X. This would be line WX or XW is parallel to line. Now the other one has points Y and point Z. So that would be point Y, line YZ. And then we also have the second set. Now these lines have 2 or 3 points on them. This is point N right here. We only need to name 2 of those points on that line, so we either need to call it line UN, line UV, so UN, or UV, or you can also call it NV. Any of those would be fine. I'm going to use UV though. So line with arrows going both ways, UV is parallel to line QR or RQ. So that's our 2 pairs of parallel lines. Erase that picture. The next thing we need to do is name a pair of perpendicular lines. Now the only right angle symbol I see is right here. And the lines that are connected to that are UV again. And then this line, now we call that ST, SN, or NT. All 3 of those would be fine. So I'm going to say line UV is perpendicular, so that upside down T symbol, to line ST. So for number 7, it asks us if line WX is parallel to line QR. So here's WX, here's QR. So what do you notice about those two lines? Well, hopefully you notice that they intersect. So if those lines intersect, can they be parallel? Well, if I go back to my notes, we defined parallel lines as lines that never intersect. So since line WX intersects line QR, we know that those lines cannot be parallel. So no, because they intersect. And that's all the explanation we need, is they intersect, so that makes them not parallel. Okay, so our next thing is line ST perpendicular to line NV? So here's ST, here's NV. Well, they have this right angle symbol. What do you guys think? Are they parallel? Yep, they are. So we would say yes, because they intersect at a right angle. So what we need to do is we need to give an example of each of these angle pairs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you not 5 minutes, I'm going to give you like a minute to identify one pair of corresponding angles, one pair of alternate interior angles, one pair of alternate exterior angles, and one pair of consecutive interior angles. Okay, so it's been a minute. So one pair of corresponding angles would be angle 1 and angle 5. Another set would be angle 4 and angle 8. Or you could have said angle 2 and angle 6. Or the final set would be angle 3 and angle 7. So there are 4 possible answers. You could have said angle 1 and angle 5. You could have said angle 4 and angle 8. You could have said angle 2 and angle 6. Or you could have said angle 3 and angle 7. So for the next 3, the A, B, C, and D, there's 2 options. So for your alternate interior angles for B, you could have angle 4 and angle 6, or you could have had angle 5 and angle 3. Because those are on opposite sides of the transversal and they're inside the 2 lines. Our alternate exterior angles, there's 2 options again. They would be angle 1 and angle 7, or you could have said angle 2 and angle 8. They are outside the two lines and they are on opposite sides of the transversal, making them alternate exterior angles. Lastly, we have consecutive interior angles. These are angles on the same side of the transversal and inside the two lines. So that would be angle 4 and angle 5, or angle 3 and angle 6. So those were our angle pairs for that page. Okay, so what we need to do on the back is we need to identify the transversal and classify each angle pair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle the angles and then try to figure out what the transversal is, and then figure out what angles really are. So for 10A, I have angle 1 and angle 3. Here's angle 1, here's angle 3. So in order to be the transversal, it must be a line that touches or forms both of those angles. So looking at line N, I notice line N only forms this part of angle 1. Line N doesn't have anything to do with angle 3. So my transversal is not line N. Line M only touches angle 3. So line M is not the transversal. Our transversal has to be line L, because line L helps form angle 1 and angle 3. So our transversal is line L. Now, we need to identify if these are corresponding, alternate interior, alternate exterior, or consecutive interior angles. So the first thing I notice is that they are both below line L. So they're both on the same side of the transversal. Since they're on the same side of the transversal, they cannot be alternate exterior angles or alternate interior angles because they're not alternate. They're on the same side. So that means I need to figure out if they're if they're corresponding angles, meaning they are on the same side of the transversal and they have the same location in comparison to the other two lines. Or if they're consecutive interior angles, where they're both on the same side of the transversal, but they're inside the other two lines. Well, so if I look at angle 1, I notice it's below line L and it's to the left of line N. So since it's to the left of line N, it's in the exterior. So it cannot be consecutive interior because angle 1 is not inside those two lines, line L and line N. Now, if I look at angle 3, it's below line L and it's to the left of line M. So it has the same location as angle 1, which makes angle 1 and angle 3 appear corresponding angles. Okay. So I'm going to clear my picture and do the same thing for angle 2 and angle 6. So, to identify the transversal, it must be the line that helps form both of those angles. So if I look there, angle 2 and angle 6 are formed partially by line N. So line N is our transversal. Now, I notice they are on opposite sides of the transversal, line N, so that means they're alternate something. So I know they're going to be alternate, so I'm going to put alt. I'm going to put a blank because I need to figure out if they're alternate interior angles or if they're alternate exterior angles. Well, I notice that they are between line L and line L. And since they're between them, that makes them alternate interior angles. So you can shorten the word alternate to alt, interior to INT, and then you can use the angle symbol with S at the end for angles. we have angle 4 and angle 6. So here's angle 4, here's angle 6. I noticed that line M helps form both of those. So that makes line M my transversal. I notice they are on opposite sides of the transversal. So that makes them alternate angles. Now we're going to need to figure out if they're alternate interior angles or alternate exterior angles. So I notice my other two lines are here and here. And angle 4 and angle 6 are outside of those two lines. The interior would be right here. So that means angle 4 and angle 6 alternate exterior angles. Okay, so we're almost done with these things. So for number 11, we're told this angle right here is 75 degrees. And since that angle is 75 degrees, that's going to help me find some other angles. We know from the picture that line P and line Q are parallel to each other. And so that means that our angle pairs that are alternate exterior angles, alternate interior angles, or corresponding angles are going to be congruent. And we know that if we have linear pairs, or if we have consecutive interior angles, we know those will be supplementary. So we can use linear pairs and vertical angles from chapter 1 and chapter 2 to help us find these, as well as all these new angle pairs that we talked about today. Okay, so there are many angles we could start by finding. It doesn't matter which one we start finding first. We can figure out almost any angle using that 75-degree angle. But I remember that we just talked about vertical angles. And if I look at where that 75-degree angle is, I know that there's going to be a vertical angle because 75 is formed by line T and line P. So that means that the non-adjacent angle, angle 2, will be congruent to that 75 because angles 2 and that 75-degree angle are vertical angles. So angle 2 is also 75 degrees. And then I'm just going to say I used phi, the vertical angle theorem. Or you can say the vertical angle congruence theorem. Those are the same thing. Just some people drop off that word congruence. So now the next angle I could try to find is angle 1. Angle 1, well, angle 1 and angle 2 are a linear pair. See how their non-common sides form line P, and this part is part of line T. So that means that they add to 180 degrees. So 180 minus 75 is going to be 105 degrees. So that means the measure of angle 1 is 105 degrees, and you could use the linear pair postulate. Linear pairs are supplementary. Or you could use the definition of supplementary angles if you wanted. Okay. So now, all the other angles in this picture are either 75 degrees or 105 degrees. So, if I know that angle 1 is 105 degrees, that means angle 4 is also 105 degrees because those are vertical angles. Okay. And now we're going to find angle 5. Well, angle 5 and angle 1 are corresponding angles. And corresponding angles, if the lines are parallel, are going to be congruent. So that means angle 5 is also 105. Well, if angle 5 is 105 degrees, then angle 8 is also 105 degrees. Because those are vertical angles, the vertical angles are congruent. I could also look at angle 1 and angle 8. Those are alternate exterior angles. They're on opposite sides of transversal T. They're outside of line P and line Q. Therefore, they're going to be congruent by the alternate exterior angles theorem. Keeping with our alternate theorems, angle 6 and that 75-degree angle are going to be alternate interior angles, which alternate interior angles are also congruent. So that means the measure of angle 6 is also 75 degrees. And that leaves us angle 7. Now, again, we could have used many, many things. But angle 2 and angle 7 are alternate exterior angles. And alternate exterior angles are congruent. So that means angle 7 is also 75 degrees. Okay. So the last two we have are number 12 and number 13. On these ones, what we'll need to do is either A, use the angle pair they already give us, set up an equation, and solve for x or y. Or maybe we're going to have to use some other angle pair knowledge and maybe find a different angle to then be able to set up an equation. So our first thing to do is check and see, do I have one of those angle pairs? So I notice that this angle right here is to the right of the transversal. And I notice the other angle is to the left of the transversal. So those are alternate angles. I notice that they are also outside of the two parallel lines. And they're in different groups. This one is at the top set, this set is at the bottom set of angles. So these are alternate exterior angles. And since they're alternate exterior angles, I know they're congruent. Since they're congruent, I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I'm going to set 6y minus 3 equal to 129. Now, all I have to do is solve for y. The first thing I'm going to do is add 3 to both sides. So I get 6y equals 132. My next step is I'm going to divide by 6. So I get y equals, and then 132 divided by 6 is going to be 22. And so we finish solving number 12. So we noticed they were alternate exterior angles. We know that those are congruent, so we set those angles equal, and then we solve for y. Now on number 13, we notice line A and line B are parallel. We have our transversal. I'm just going to call it T, so that I have something to talk about it with. Now, these angles, I noticed one of them is in the interior, one of them is in the exterior. So they are alternate, but they're not alternate interior angles, nor are they alternate exterior angles. So right now I don't want to think about those for a second. Then, let's see. Well, they're not consecutive interior angles because they're not on the same side of the transversal and they're not inside the two lines because 120 is on the exterior. And they can't be corresponding angles because corresponding angles have to be on the same side of the transversal and have the same position. These aren't on the same side of the transversal and they aren't in the same position. So that means that we're going to have to look at these angles and try to identify the measure of a different angle to help us figure this out. So I'm going to use that 120-degree angle. Now, I can figure out how many degrees each of these three angles are. And depending on which angle I choose, that's going to change which angle pair I would be using. So for example, if I chose this angle right here, angle 2x and that angle are alternate interior angles because they're on opposite sides of the transversal and they're inside the two lines. So if those are alternate interior angles, then they'll be congruent. If I chose this angle right here, that would make that 2x degree angle and that angle corresponding angles, because they're both to the left of the transversal and below their respective parallel lines. Or lastly, if I chose this angle right here and the 2x degree angle, those are consecutive interior angles. They're inside the two parallel lines and they're to the left of the transversal. So those would be supplementary angles. So now we just have to choose one of those things. And I think I'm going to use first that I know this 120-degree angle and this angle right here are going to be vertical angles. And by the vertical angles congruence theorem, vertical angles are congruent. Now, those two angles that I have here are going to be consecutive interior angles. And that means that they're going to be supplementary. So if they're supplementary, by the definition of supplementary angles, they're going to add to 180 degrees. So I'm going to take 120 plus 2x and set that equal to 180. I now need to solve for x, and then I'll be done. So I'm going to first subtract 120 from both sides. So I get 2x equals 60. The last step I need to do is divide by 2 on both sides. So I'm going to get x is equal to 30. So those are your notes for today. You now need to work on the practice that is posted on the board. If you finish the practice, then you need to work on other homework. I will be working on grading your projects in the next couple of days. My hope is to have those grades entered on Monday, the 23rd of September. So your project is going to be on this quarter, and it's going to be in before the 6-week grade check. So hopefully you guys all turn those in, and I'm looking forward to reading them. So let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Please feel free to send me a message on Schoology or send me an email. You will have a learning check over this topic next class, so please make sure that you let me know what questions you guys have. Have a great day.